I wait for you to come around. You got me dancing in the dark. I close my eyes, but I won't sleep tonight. Baby, you should come with me. I'll take you to the dark side. Me and you and me, do bad things in the nighttime. Baby, you should come with me, and we can kill the lights, hit the lights, let it black out, hit the lights, let it black out. Blackbird, black moon, black sky, black light, black everything, black heart, black keys, black diamonds, black out, black everything, black everything, all black, everything, all black, everything, all black, everything, black. Nocturnal state of mind, children of the night, but it's the only way of life. It's black holes pulling me inside of this black heart, the black soul underneath this black sky. Baby, you should come with me. I'll take you to the dark side. Me and you and me, do bad things in the nighttime. Baby, you should come with me, and we can kill the lights, hit the lights, let it black out, hit the lights, let it black out. Blackbird, black moon, black sky, black light, black everything, black heart, black keys, black diamonds, black out, black everything, black everything, all black, everything, all black, everything, all black, everything, black. Baby, you should come with me. Me and you and me. Baby, you should come with me, and we can kill the lights, hit the lights, let it black out, hit the lights, let it black out. Blackbird, black moon, black sky, black light, black everything, black heart, black keys, black diamonds, black out, black everything, black everything, all black, everything, all black, everything, all black, everything, black. Beware, be skeptical. The smiles are plated gold. Deceit so natural, but a wolf in sheep's clothing is more than a warning. Black sheep, have you any soul? Wrong shirt, by the way, what the hell they're mortal. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jill's a little whore and her alibis are turning tricks. So could you tell me how you're sleeping easy, how you're only thinking of yourself? Show me how you justify telling all your lies like second nature. Listen, mark my words, one day you will pay. Karma's gonna come collect your debt. Oh well, you stalk your prey with criminal mentality. You sink your teeth into the people you depend on, infecting everyone, you're quite the problem. B5 from better run and hide. I smell the blood of a petty little coward. Jack be lethal, Jack be slick. You'll believe you're lonely, dying in a filthy ditch. So could you tell me how you're sleeping easy, how you're only thinking fucking overzealous here. You've always been a huge piece of shit. If I could kill you, I would. I'm frowned upon in all 50 states. Having said that, burn in So tell me how you're sleeping easy, how you're only thinking of yourself. Show me how you justify telling all your lies like second nature. Listen, mark my words, one day you will pay. Karma's gonna come collect your debt. Karma's gonna come collect your debt. Karma's gonna come collect your debt. I talk a lot of shit when I'm drinking.
We all pretend to be the heroes on the good side. Oh, 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 oh. 어떤 것은 검은색, 어떤 것은 하얀색. 색안경을 끼고 보면 어떡해. 넌 착한 사람이고 걔 나쁜 사람이고 재미없는 너의 세상은 흑백. So many shades of grey. Oh, 어떻게 아직도 모를 수 있어. Oh, good easily fades away. 함부로 나를 좋아하지 마. Because I'm a villain. 왜 아닐 거라 생각해. 아주 못돼 먹은 작은 악마 같은 나인 걸 몰라. You're a villain. 왜 아닐 거라 생각해. 미처 몰랐던 악마가 아니야. 내 숨 쉬고 있어. I'm killing someone. Maybe you're killing someone. Maybe I'm killing you. Maybe you're killing me. Maybe we all pretend to be the heroes on the good side. But what if we're the villains on the other? Am I good? Am I bad? Ay. Are you good? Are you bad? Ay. 내가 제일 사랑하는 누군가는 또 다른 누군가에게는 개새. Are we good? Are we bad? Ay. What is good? What is bad? Ay. 네가 제일 미워하는 누군가는 사랑받는 누군가의 자식. Say. So many shades of grey. Oh, 어떻게 아직도 모를 수 있어. Oh, good easily fades away. 함부로 나를 좋아하지 마. Because 1, 2 I'm a villain. 왜 아닐 거라 생각해. 아주 못돼 먹은 작은 악마 같은 나인 걸 몰라. You're a villain. 왜 아닐 거라 생각해. 미처 몰랐던 악마가 아니야. 내 숨 쉬고 있어. All villains. 왜 아닐 거라 생각해. 아주 못돼 먹은 작은 악마들이 우린 걸 몰라. We're all villains. 왜 아닐 거라 생각해. 미처 몰랐던 악마 같은 우리를 좀 봐. I'm killing someone. Maybe you're killing someone. Maybe I'm killing you. Maybe you're killing me. Maybe we all pretend to be the heroes on the good side. But what if we're the villains on the other? We all pretend to be the heroes on the good side. But what if we're the villains on the other? We all pretend to be the heroes on the good side.
Hello there, General Kenobi. I showered last night, not this morning, so my hair is not the best it's ever looked. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Commander Radix, your name is Sidelink84, Omari Moose, Robert Holmes, and Crazy Kid Studios. That's your name. Thank you for coming out here to the live stream, the one and only Commander Radix catch-up stream. Because today, we're gonna be chilling. We're gonna be talking because I haven't had much of a chance to do much of anything lately. Not really much of a chance to, give me a moment. Okay. Not much of a chance to really work on videos. I've been focusing on moving and stuff like that. You can see I have I don't know what you would call it, a travel case back there. Hello, Scourge Dreammaker. How are you, beautiful people? I've been busy facing setbacks, but you know how it be. You know how it do. Robert Larson says, hey, hello, Robert Larson. Thank you for coming out. Has K, not that coming out. Thank you for coming out to this stream. Chris K, oh, so you're not dead. I could be. Do you want me to be? Let me get the chat up here. What is chat? Pop out chat. Live chat. Window capture. What's window capture? Properties. Aha. There we are. Boom. Hey, wait. You can't be Robert. He is much alive to me. Yes. So I haven't been... Okay, so here's the deal. Lately, with my new style of content production, I've been focusing on really what I want to make. You know, I've been focusing on having fun, doing stuff that I want to do, and as a result, for the past few months, and working at my own pace is another important thing lately. So for the past few months, I have been working on a video about ancient Sumeria. On ancient Sumeria, because that's what I wanted to do. And recently, catastrophe struck, where I've done all the research, I've wrote out the script, I've narrated the script, and I had started the actual video editing. I was about halfway done. It's about a 30-minute video. And then at some point I was cleaning up my PC, you know, yeeted my recycle bin out the window, as you do, and realized that I deleted the narration file. And you know, you can't just reread the script and hope that the half-edited video will just happen to flow exactly with your first narration that you recorded a few months ago, because you might say something faster than you did last time, you might say something slower than you did last time, and so the words popping up on the screen and the images on the screen aren't necessarily going to line up. So that video has to be redone from the narration step. So that's the problem we're at now. So seeing as I don't know when the next video of mine is going to come out, I decided, hey, the next few weeks are going to be busy. Let's chill with the stream. Let's chill with you guys. Let's see what we got here. So we can talk Transformers if you want. Lately I've been on a big history kick lately, so if we want to talk about history, that's fine too. Right now I'm probably more brushed up on my history than I am on Transformers lore, but, you know, we'll see. So, I still say Advice God needs to come back. That's true, but isn't Yahoo Answers about to die? Like, wasn't there something about Yahoo Answers? Let's find out. A 1, a 2, a 3. Yahoo Answers. If you look at the Wikipedia page, it gives it in the past tense. You know how Wikipedia editors always quickly turn things into the past tense? They're waiting for everyone to die so they can change everything to the past tense. Yahoo Answers, let me see. This is theoretically my scene that I can see the monitor with. Oh. Let's see. Do I need to... Excuse me. I'm a professional streamer. Okay. Yahoo Answers. Yahoo Answers, formerly known as Yahoo Q&A, is a community-driven question and answer site. I'm on the infographic. Hold up. Infogalactic. Wikipedia, Yahoo Answers was a community-driven question and answer Q&A website, or knowledge market, owned by Yahoo, where users would ask questions and answer those submitted by others and upvote them to increase their visibility. On April 5th, 2021, Yahoo, with an exclamation mark, announced that Yahoo Answers would be shutting down. On April 20th, 2021, the website switched to read-only, and users were no longer able to ask or answer questions. The site ceased operations in most languages on May 4th, 2021. Though the Japanese version remains online. Well, if you want me to troll Japanese Yahoo Answers, we might be able to do that. That's the status of Yahoo Answers. Video are always better when the creator actually wants to make. I agree, Colby. Oh no. I agree. Make what you like if it makes you feel good. Also, rip your audio files. Thank you. Can we just get a moment of silence for my Sumeria audio files? That's not a moment of silence, but I don't know if you could hear that. A moment of silence for Sumeria, for the Sumeria video that will never see the light. It might see the light of day. By the way, the Commander Radix website, the Commander Radix blog, is linked in the description. You can read for yourself the script for the Sumeria video. It's available. You go to the Commander Radix website, go to the Radix Academy tab, click, and then I think there's like a script option. Click, and then you go to Sumeria. It's called Sumeria, and I did like the aesthetic S space U space all caps Sumeria, and then the subtitle is The World of Words, because they invented writing. The Sumerians started writing stuff. They started like getting these stone tablets and just carving text into it, and those records exist for thousands of years. But I tried to make a video about them in the year of our Lord 2021, and I accidentally yeet out my recycle bin, and now I don't have access to the files talking about the society that survived, that have records surviving thousands of years. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic. And yeah, I really do think. Okay. Hello, Okay. A much chilling stream. That sounds like a horror thing. It was a chilly night. It was a chilling stream. A much chilling stream. How much you know of Greek mythology? You know what? I want to learn more about Greek mythology. I'm very curious about the Greeks. Strange creatures, the Greeks. I've actually been doing a little bit of research into the Trojan War, because I never really studied the Trojan War in school. And the Trojan War seems very interesting, especially when you pair it with, at the same time, researching about the Bronze Age collapse. It's fun. I'm the type of dude who likes history, but there's a type of historian who they go into history strictly with the idea of, oh, everyone holds these ideas about history, I'm going to crush these misconceptions. Oh, George Washington cutting down a cherry tree? Well, actually, according to my research, George Washington has never seen a cherry tree in his life. There's some college historian that's like, actually, in this ancient Roman battle, this Roman historian says that there was actually maybe around 800 more soldiers than, according to my research, actually was there. You know, I hate that type of historian. I'm the type of historian that, like, you know, goes in and looks at mythology and says, that's based. That's based, and then just go with it from there. Maybe see what connections can be made with some more reliable history. So, you know, I'm not going to throw the Trojan War out of my historiography because, oh, there are gods in it. And I've been listening to Achilles come down a lot, you know. Achilles, 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 come down, won't you get up off the roof. That song. I want to read the Song of Achilles at some point. But also, I want to read the Iliad. I kind of want to read the Iliad before I get into Song of Achilles. Can you teach us the history of Yahoo Answers? So it was a worse Reddit. A lesser Reddit. That's Yahoo Answers. A lesser Reddit. F in the chat for Sumeria. 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 I don't know what Sumeria is. You have a website? Yeah, link in the description. I think it's like commanderscabin.blogspot.com. That's where I'm at. That's where I try to put all my stuff. Mostly because Twitter banned me from sending death threats to a bot. So I can't post my crazy thoughts anymore. But like, if I just keep it in my head, I am going to explode. I am going to die if I do that. So that's where I put my stuff. I put scripts there. I put Calamus mythos stuff there. I put Transformers lore stuff there. It's all there. It's all good. It's all in the hood. You know what I'm saying? You know how it be. You know how it do. How is it over there with COVID? Right now, COVID is the least of my worries. Right now, I am actually broadcasting to you live from the middle of a typhoon. So, I'm currently being hit by a typhoon, which came at the worst possible time. Worst possible time. Have any tips for researching? Yeah, I think a lot of, especially YouTube historians that I've looked at, kind of just give you a compilation of Wikipedia articles that they've reworked. I think there's a deeper history than just Wikipedia articles. Like, yeah, it's a good introduction. But recently, I've been reading a book called The Autumn in the Heavenly Kingdom, China, the West, and the Epic Story of the Taiping Civil War. And it's going into detail about the Taiping Civil War. And I think especially from reading stuff like that, reading books, the value of reading books cannot be understated, I think. Now granted, this is coming from someone who my Sumerian research mostly comes from online articles. But I didn't read a book about Sumeria. But I think reading books can lead to higher quality stuff. And it really depends on the book, too. Like, let me be honest with you, I understand that probably even more than half of history books out there are the most blandly written things to ever walk the surface of the earth. But every now and then you get a historian that realizes, hey, if I want people to read my book, it should be at least somewhat interesting. Like a Stephen Platt, who writes Autumn in the Heavenly Kingdom. The dude will not hesitate to say, and according to this note, it's at this moment that one British sailor got his head chopped off by a cannonball. Like, he will go into stuff like that. And, you know, I think that's fun. He just will casually mention, and then this dude got decapitated, and then this dude got shot through the shoulder or whatever, and blood spilled all over the note that the source I'm reading was writing at the time. So books, multiple sources, and, you know, it kind of goes without saying, but scaffolding. If I say scaffolding, do we know what that means? It's a concept in education, but, like, don't dive into something you have no idea about. Create stepping stones until you can get into that, so you can know the context. So let's say you know a lot about World War II, but you don't know much about, let's say, Alexander the Great. and you don't really know much about what happens between Alexander the Great and World War II, but you want to do research about Alexander the Great. And sure, you can start reading. I'm sure Alexander the Great's a very intro, easy topic. Like, there are books that are introducing Alexander the Great to you. But, let's say in this theoretical world where nobody knows who Alexander the Great is and all the sources on Alexander the Great sort of rely on you having to know some previous context, then, start with World War II, figure out what happened that led to World War II, like World War I, figure out what happened to how the Napoleonic Wars fed into that, go into the Enlightenment, the Age of Revolution. I picked, like, the longest route to take. Figure out how the Enlightenment ties into the Dark Ages, what caused the Dark Ages, go into the fall of the Roman Empire, learn more about the history of the Roman... okay, this is a bad example, because Alexander the Great and World War II are so far off, and there's nobody who knows nothing about what happened between Alexander the Great and World War II. But, eventually you'll get to Alexander the Great. Learn in stepping stones before you dive into something completely alien. Let's say you don't know much about Dai Viet, which was the dynasty that led Vietnam in the 1600s or so. Well, we probably know about the Vietnam War. We might know that France once owned Vietnam. Start with going into a deeper dive into France taking over Vietnam, and then moving up from there in the timeline. I think I just passed Gordon Ramsay's truck. What does that mean? Does Gordon Ramsay have a recognizable truck that I should know about? What does that mean? Good night, good morning, good afternoon, if you're in my case, Mr. Sandro Eduardo. The Trojan War has the best party pinata. I can see that. Any thoughts on the IDW Beast Wars comic series? I'll tell you my thoughts on it. My thoughts are, I haven't read it. I ain't reading it. I don't really care about it. I'm seeing people complain about Josh Burkham? I'm gonna say Burkham. If it's wrong, sue me. I've seen people complain about Josh Burkham's art style. And I'm like, yeah, but, when the IDW forums were open, like in 2012, there was this little, like, everyone put in their signature, Josh Burkham to draw Transformers, and like they're really trying to push Josh Burkham to being a main comic art person for the IDW Transformers comics at the time. And I looked at his art, I'm like, that's not main comic worthy art. That's not main interior worthy art. Is it good for every now and then? Is it good for a fun publications book every now and then? Sure. But I can't really see myself wanting that sort of art style for a main publication interior art when we have people like Andrew Griffith? The dude who did Robots in Disguise. And Alex Milne and stuff like that. When we have those artists, I don't really want to see Burkham's art. But like everyone was like, oh, we gotta have Josh Burkham for on Transformers, and now look at it, he's the main interior art for a Beast Wars comic, and all I see are people complaining about the art style. So I'm like, where were you guys to stop it when that movement was going on? The dude seems fine, himself. His art's fine for what it is, but I don't think it's comic interior worthy art. And to be clear, I'm not saying that I could do better. I definitely couldn't. How could Frenzy survive without his body in the first movie? I thought the spark was located in the body. The spark theoretically can be located anywhere. I've seen the theory that, for example, the spark for, like, G1 Ironhide and Ratchet in them and Prowl might have been in the shoulder in Transformers the movie, because you see Megatron, who was holding Megatron at that time? Starscream? Or was it Bone Crusher or whoever? When they get shot through the shoulder, they just instantly, fire comes out of their eyes and mouth. Like, that's a little bit unusual. Something's going on there. But the spark could theoretically be anywhere. Transformers Energon shows us exactly where the sparks are for a lot of its characters, especially its Autobot characters. And, it could be in the forearm, it could be on the shoulder, it could be sometimes on the chest, in weird occasions on the crotch. Like Demolisher on the crotch for some reason. But the spark could theoretically be anywhere. It's not necessarily in the chest. Oh, shoot. Are you okay? No. No. Should you be doing this right now? I don't have anything else to do. I am trapped in my apartment. I can't do anything else. How could Half Prime and RC survive in space but not in Antarctica during the Scraplet episode? How cold is space? That's a good question. That's a very good question. I need to rewatch that episode to look at the dialogue again, to be honest, so I can't give you a solid answer right now. But just from memory, it was weird. I don't like, are you sure you can't handle Antarctica? But Transformers have shown in the past to be very sensitive to cold. Case in point, that was sort of one of the main points in the first Michael Bay movie. That cold affected them, so they used like super freezing bullets or whatever. And then in Revenge of the Fallen, they just threw that out the window. But cold, Transformers do seem to be weak to cold. But again, how cold is space? Because they seem to be just going out into space just fine. So that's a good question. I don't know. I need to look into that more. I have theories about the in-show history of the Unicron trilogy. Okay. His art is one of my favorite parts of the series. Oh, really? Gordon Ramsay had a truck for his 24-hour Hell and Back show, where he remodeled a restaurant in 24 hours while continuing to cook by revealing that the entire truck was secretly a kitchen in disguise. That's Gordon Ramsay for you. I wouldn't expect anything else from him. Have you peeked back in the new Transformers mainline in G.I. Joe and current IW2? I have not read beyond what my most recent review of those series have been. I want to continue G.I. Joe at least. But Transformers seems to be moving so slow. Actually, I'm working on a story for the Calamus mythos called Transformers Uprising, which is essentially supposed to be the Calamus mythos' version of like the origin of the Autobot-Decepticon War. And I realized that in 2 chapters, neither of them have been released yet, but in the 2 chapters I've written of Transformers Uprising, that take place in the Calamus mythos universe. In those 2 chapters, I've covered more ground than the entire IDW series has covered at this point. But yeah, for any of you following the Calamus mythos, expect even though we're in the middle of Endless Crisis right now, expect me to go off on a tangent and do like a 5-part mini-series on the origin of the Autobot-Decepticon War in the Calamus mythos universe. Scavenger killed Prowl. Based? Can I get a based in chat? Can we get a based Scavenger? Reference to Brawn. That's what kids want to see. Their favorite characters getting shot to death while smoke and fumes released from their face holes. Yeah, that was unusual. That was, Who was the creative director behind that? Brawn was killed in the shoulder. Based? Can I get a based Brawn in the chat? Based shoulder death Brawn? I thought it was the snow and water. Could be. Because, what is space missing? Snow and water, I guess. Ice. Well, they're able to move in space with thrusters or in spaceships. Or if you watch Transformers Energon, they can just float and go with the flow, man. They don't need thrusters. Hey, man, glad to see you active. Thank you, iRobot150. Or is that an 1506? You know what happened in the year 1506? I don't. Hey man, I just read that. How do you like Beast Wars Uprising? I hear it's good. It's good. It's based. Can I get a based Beast Wars Uprising in chat? I am going insane. I am losing my mind. The journey of live-action Megatron was to be frozen into a popsicle. Died twice, then became Legos afterwards. Become Megatron, presumably being slapped by a squid woman. Yeah. Based. Can we get a based live-action Megatron turning into Legos? The true Sigma male. You know, you guys are playing the game. You guys are playing the alpha beta game. Megatron's here like, I'm gonna be Legos. I will not elaborate further. Tell an origin for Brawn where he's invincible save for his shoulder, much like an Achilles heel. Achilles, come down once you get up off the roof. Is Brawn the Achilles of Transformers? It's more likely than you think. Then who is his gay lover? Answer me that, Colby Ono. Who is Brawn's gay lover? Achilles had I can't pronounce Greek names. Patroclus, whatever it was. Who is Brawn's gay lover? I want you to tell me that. Chat, everyone, propose to me who Brawn's gay lover is. Ignoring the fact that technically the only romantic relationship we've seen with Brawn was with CoverGirl from G.I. Joe. But how many times does Megatron need to die in the Bay films before it actually stinks? Well, seeing as the Bay films are over now. The Bay films are over and Megatron's still kicking. Pipes. Huffer, because why not? And because why not? Sure, I'm fine with Pipes. So we got Pipes and Huffer. Now who's going to write the fanfic? I will not incorporate a Pipes Brawn gay fanfic into the Calamus mythos, or a Huffer Brawn fanfic, which is somehow weirder. Energon Rodimus may have been Automotive Supreme Commander prior to the Unicron Trilogy Optimus Prime. No? They both were high-ranking officials, but then Rodimus left. I remember when Autobots could fly. I'm surprised how some in animated was somewhat reasonable with its science, until you see Soundwave, which somehow was able to fly in Season 3 in Human Error. Dude was a car. Dude was a car. I like that quote. I want that quote somewhere. Dude was a car. Just, dude was a car, you know? Nowhere else can that apply. America is collapsing, boys. America, are you okay? Gentlemen, we're losing the country. Place your bets. Do you think America will collapse before this stream ends? It is hanging by a thread. Now the question is, am I talking about the flag or am I talking about the country? Ooh, who knows? Japan staying strong. Japan is gambaru-ing. Dude was a car. Yo, new cut, caught me off guard. Do you like the cut that was done to America? They explained that he was revered enough to inspire Autobots and Decepticons to depart Cybertron. I'm aware of that, but he wasn't a Supreme Commander. Pipes X Brawn fanfic might exist. It might. They might make puns with Pipe's name, but we don't need to talk about that. The title will be something stupid like, His Voice is My Strength. Have you guys ever looked at some of the Calamus Mythos chapter titles? Because sometimes I'll just name something like one word, and it'll be like, ooh, ominous. And then sometimes I'll name it a full sentence. Like, the chapters are not consistent. Let's see. Let's do this. Oh, I'm wrong. Aha. Let's do this and this and this. Let's do that. So these are some of the chapter titles from the Calamus Mythos. And like, half of them are like movie references that I have not seen. Half of them are like maybe some comic titles I've ripped off. Some of them are just like, so-and-so does this. You know that Transformers episode that's just titled Ultra Magnus Dies? It's a lot like that. So, like, you have some, like, the beginning. Yeah, chapter 1 being called the beginning makes sense. You have things like encounter. Like, oh, what's that about? Covenant. And then, like, first job. That's not really that ominous. And then sometimes you get, like, random, like, half sentences. I said, do not cry. Then we have song references. Call Your Name is a song from Attack on Titan. Then they get longer. Don't call me by that name anymore. And then sometimes it's just a name. Killer Moth. There will come a dark night. Well, that doesn't leave much to the imagination. And then you're like, you, me, and Superman. What does that even mean? And then Fire in the Sky, which is definitely a ripoff of a Transformers title. But I think that chapter is about Firefly. Then you have like something very basic, like the evil Lex Luthor. Guess who's the villain of that one? Revenge of Solomon Grundy. But then you have got things like Soul Reaper. I like this one. Chapter 46, A Family. Chapter 47, Kabukicho. Chapter 48, No Family. Something obviously happened in chapter 47. Something happened. Something happened there. Where's chat? You, me, and Superman. I'm confused. I remember Ultra Magnus Dies, where Rodimus was kicked to death by the headmaster. Aggressive Negotiations is a reference to Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. But I think what happens in there is Harvey Dent tries to make a deal with the Joker, and the Joker scars his face. And you have, like, A Dark Knight Christmas. Yeah. Chapter 58, Better Luck Next Time. Chapter 59, Next Time. Better luck next time. Next time. And the protagonist does have better luck in chapter 59. Weird titles like The Battle of Turkey. I don't even know what beg in the battle even means. I wrote this when I was in, like, middle school. Any other weird chapter titles? From Russia with Love. And all that's about is the setting of that chapter is Russia. It's no references to the James Bond movie of the same name that I have never seen. I Believe in Harvey Dent's a quote from The Dark Knight. The Other Green! Exclamation mark. Like, what does that mean? What do you think The Other Green even means? What do you think that means, guys? I'll tell you what it means. It means that Green Lantern had been introduced, but Green Arrow had not been introduced yet. That's the chapter where Green Arrow is introduced. And, like, the first scene is Green Lantern attacking Green Arrow, saying, hey, yo, you trying to steal my name? I wrote this when I was in elementary school. Apocalypse Now, which is a title to a movie I have not seen. Guerrilla Warfare. Some of these are just puns. And then you have annoying things like this. The Battle, ... part 1. But then it's The Battle, no ... part 2, with a subtitle, Fall of a Hero. Like, okay. What is your writing process? Lately, I've been mostly doing outlines. Like, right now, this section has been outlined, and I know what these chapters are going to be about, but I have not written them yet. And catching up to what we've written already, Endless Crisis has been completely outlined. Let me tell you something. I have discovered that by outlining my chapters, it kills my motivation. By knowing where the story is going to go, I stop writing. So, right now, my writing process is not the writing process I like. Until I finish these story arcs, the Endless Crisis story arc, and the long stretch of chapters that will connect the Decennium Compendium to the current stuff. Right now I have to do my outlines work. But once I finish that, I'm going to go back to a very haphazard, I'm just gonna do what I feel like stuff. I cannot outline. I've discovered the reason the Calamus mythos has been on a massive hiatus lately, and the reason I'm currently randomly doing a Transformers Uprising series, is because my mind cannot work with outlining. So once these outlines are done, once I finish these story arcs, I'm going back to just pure chaos like it used to be. Like this era of writing when I was in elementary school and middle school, pure chaos, absolute chaos. But I think this led to better world building than what my outlines are doing, so I like having the world and just letting the characters do their own thing. I cannot outline anymore. Outlining is my weakness. I've tried it, it's not working. Is A Dark Knight Christmas a Batman Christmas musical? It's a Batman Christmas special. Will you continue Transformers Resurrection anytime soon? I really like the first chapter. Anytime soon? Probably not. Here's the thing. Transformers Resurrection is also outlined. So, when things are outlined, I tend to not want to do it. We do know that in Armada he took a hot shot before passing the head, how data from previous commanders have served. The only known Autobot leader before Optimus was Vector. Well, Vector Prime wasn't a supreme commander of the Auto... Vector Prime never held that matrix. Vector Prime was a member of the 13. He's sort of not in that same lineage. We don't know any Supreme Commanders, but it wasn't Rodimus. Has Optimus tried to punch Superman in the face? Wait, does Unicron eat Krypton? Where he reformed Zod into Galvazon? No. Although, currently in Endless... Well, I guess... There's a story arc where Unicron is the main deal. He's still kind of the main deal, but chapters... Around chapter 435 to 438, Unicron is a big deal. Primal Scream... let's look at those titles. Primal Scream is from the Marvel Transformers comics. Instruments of Destruction is the name of a soundtrack on Transformers the movie. Valentine is just called that because it takes place on Valentine's Day. And then Go for Unicron, I think, was literally a title of a Transformers Energon episode. Look at these titles. Deus Ex Machina. I saw the face of God and it was weeping. Mexican standoff metafiction. My favorite title ever was I saw the face of God and it was weeping. And you know what that's a reference to? Hold up. That's a reference to I saw the face of God and it was weeping. That title comes from this meme. This title purely comes from this meme. Just baked beans, don't ask me for the secret family recipe. And then the dog, I saw the face of God and it was weeping. And I loved this meme so much, and it became the title for chapter 440. I saw the face of God and it was weeping. Oh my god, that's my problem. It's a relatable writing problem, right? I spend too much time charting out my stories without having fun with them. I can't believe I've never realized this. Yeah, Endless Crisis has like a full-on flow chart of like events that I need to tick off before I can get to the next scene. And it's not fun. It's not fun anymore. Endless Crisis started at chapter 416. I'm surprised I have done this much by outlining. All this is all with outlines, except for, where is it? Twisted World was Twisted World was not outlined. It was just me saying, I've been outlining too much. I need to go off, focus on some minor characters, and do some weird things. If you read chapter 439 to 442, it is the weirdest thing you have ever read. You can tell that all this stuff was, like, meticulously outlined, and then I get tired of it and decide to just have fun. Twisted World is insane. It's like the most insane stuff I've ever written. Maybe we'll go through, maybe we'll read it here on stream because it's funny. I think it's funny. And then I go back to the scripted, the outline stuff. There's also another part that wasn't outlined. Where was it? Like, there's one chapter in here that's just two completely unrelated stories that take place years earlier in the timeline and focus on characters that aren't even relevant to the main story. What was it? Like, the first half was a Joker origin story, and the second half was focusing on a battalion of troops in one of the wars that had taken place, like, in 2013. Which was it? One of these wasn't outlined. It could be Instruments of Destruction, not gonna lie. I don't think it is, though. It could be Drawing the Curtains, but I don't think it is. Polyakov's Paradise fits into the outline, but I didn't have to write it. It's like a one-shot focusing on Superman being banished on this planet that wasn't part of the outline, but I thought, hey, there's a story opening that I could do here for a one-shot Superman story, so I'll take that opportunity. From Russia with Love, that's a James Bond thing. Yes, it is, but I've never watched that movie. I wonder what a pure good guy Nova Prime would look like, not Shattered Glass. I remember that Bludgeon shot the robot god in his face, where everyone saw the face of God and it was weeping. Yeah. I want to take a look at Twisted World. Twisted World. Now, the main characters for Twisted World are the Lazy Koalas, who I am not affiliated with anymore, so it's a little weird, but I do not remove things from the Calamus Mythos canon, so it's still canon. And it's so bizarre. Give me a moment. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Let me find it. I saw the face of God and it was weeping. It's bizarre, guys. You guys are ready for a crazy trip? Let's take a look at this. The Calamus Mythos, Chapter 439, Twisted World, Part 1, Deus Ex Machina. And this is I'll provide you with some little continuity notes so you guys won't be lost. But it's so bizarre. This is me after writing like 20 chapters outline. I'm like, I gotta just do whatever, man. I gotta just go wild. I gotta go crazy. Okay, Wiggum, Georgia, 2018. Years ago, there were a series of wars in which one man tried to take over the world with a robot army. That's basic Calamus Mythos stuff. That's basic Calamus Mythos background. He came close, but was eventually pushed off the planet by those who resisted him. Though he and his robot army was, for the most part, gone, there were still fallen robots who littered the fields from Russia to Vietnam and from Libya to Mexico. Their empire did their best at trying to recover the remains of fallen soldiers, but the sheer amount of robots deployed and deactivated made finding all of them impossible, especially in minor battlefields. Wiggum was a small town in the state of Georgia in the United States, but 3 years ago it had been part of the wider front line in the war to conquer America. One robot soldier who fought in the campaign, like many others out in the world, was laying on the ground in the woods of Wiggum. Grass and dirt had collected onto the abandoned soldier. His uniform was ruined. His helmet was rusted. The paneling over the lights that outlined his eyes were cracked. The body was left to rust for years. "Over here!" Kenny cried. Kenny was a 19-year-old young man who loved exploring in the woods around his home with his friends. Every now and then, they'd find bullets lodged in the trees or bombs which had not yet exploded. Naturally, being Georgia boys, they'd detonate these bombs in what was technically a controlled explosion, but in a manner that would make the actual bomb disposal experts wince. Whenever they found a spare gun, they would practice shooting on the nearby trees until the clip was expended. And I'll say, some of this, like bombs that have not yet exploded, in Okinawa there are bombs that have not been exploded everywhere, so that's kind of, taking from my own place where I live, inspiration. And also, as someone who's from North Carolina and from the South, where you just go into the woods and shoot trees, I was thinking about that when I wrote that. They would practice shooting on the nearby trees until the clip was expended. Look up, I saw the face of God, and it was square in your free time. On today's adventure, Kenny and two of his friends had noticed the sunlight reflecting off something in the distance, that being the helmet of the discarded soldier. They were here to investigate. Which brings us to the three boys standing around the dead robot soldier. No way, Bobby exhaled. A Tin Man. Well, technically, Reginald started, the original model of Bavarian robotic soldiers were modeled from an alloy of steel. Nobody cares, Reggie. ちょっと待って. Give me a moment. Guess who was just rejected from an apartment, guys? That's fun. That's great. Kill me. Okay. Well, technically, Reginald started, the original model of Bavarian robotic soldiers were modeled from an alloy of steel. Nobody cares, Reggie, Bobby replied. Let's get 'em out, Kenny said, leaning down. I'm going to give Bobby a southern accent. Get 'em out, Bobby asked in surprise. These things are death machines. Oh, America's falling again. These things are death machines. Yeah, Kenny said, already brushing off some of the dirt on the soldier's right arm and pulling on the limb. The mechanical arm was very stiff, yet felt very weak. Isn't that cool? Maybe Pa can oil him up and get him working again. Would be nice to have a robot servant to help Ma around the house. Robot servant? Reginald asked. Kenny, these things occupied a large portion of the world. Reggie, if you don't shut up, I'll have this guy occupy your... Kenny started, as he reached around to the back of the robot's head to lift him up. This applied pressure to the mechanical innards of the head that connected two inner components that were dislodged when the robot went flying from an explosion in the battle 3 years ago. Suddenly, his red eyes flickered back to life. Ah! The robot cried. Ah! The boys yelled, backing up. Kenny dropped the robot's head and it slammed back into the ground. The eyes shut off once more. The boys all looked at each other, paralyzed in fear. Wiggum, February 16th, 2019. The Endless Crisis. Now, some background here. In the Endless Crisis, most of the people at this point have evacuated the planet. People left on Earth are just living in total chaos. Rioters and looters from the other areas of Georgia had seeped into Wiggum, and Kenny, Bobby, and Reginald were defending Kenny's parents' home. The parents of each of the boys had been evacuated on a ship over Tallahassee, but because of the carrying capacity concerns, the boys had decided to send their parents ahead with the fleet while they stayed together at Kenny's house. After all, they wouldn't be alone. They had help. From the woods all around the house came rioters who were taking advantage of the anarchy of the crisis, but 3 boys would absolutely not let them destroy their belongings. Kenny was grateful that his friends were standing with him, opening fire on the approaching rioters from cover positions by the windows. After all, some of their best memories came from relaxing in this house. Some guys are swinging around the front porch, Bobby cried. I just heard the bathroom window shatter, Kenny yelled. God, I forgot about the bathroom, Reginald complained, leaving his position at one of the windows and walking over to the bathroom. Why would you even install a window in a bathroom? That's weird, right? Reginald said as he fired his shotgun through the door. Behind the door, he could hear someone falling over dead from the blast. They're still pushing, Bobby yelled. Kenny, I think we need him. He hasn't been in a fight like this before. What if we lose him? Kenny cried. Kenny! Fine, Kenny turned to look behind him. Jefferson, he cried. Suddenly, what appeared to be a heavily armored Templar knight emerged from the shadows, drawing his longsword. Deus Vult, the knight cried. Deus Vult, Kenny smiled. The knight charged forward, lunging through the window and facing the rioters and looters with the blade. Despite his stiff, calculated movements, the knight was standing his ground, but it was evident that he would be overrun. A year ago, the boys had recovered the robot and enlisted the aid of Kenny's dad to bring the robot back to life. The robot no longer had any memories, its brain module having been degenerated by exposure and idleness. Instead, the boys raised the robot to be one of their own friends. Bobby gave the robot, which they had named Jefferson, a Templar Knight cosplay outfit that fit strangely well. As devout Christians, the boys instilled their values into Jefferson, taking him to church and making him a member of the local community. Jefferson really enjoyed the Crusader persona. The Endless Crisis is the Rapture with robots. I'm the Calamus mythos. Does Unicron have any goons? He's kind of by himself right now. Making anyone your servant is the worst idea. It's like pinning a star in an uprising against me. Jefferson's a loyal boy, don't worry. Jefferson really enjoyed the Crusader persona. He's whapping the floor with them, Bobby cheered as he fired a shot to take out an approaching vandal. But he's too stiff, Reginald cried. He's a robot, not a master swordsman. Indeed, Bavarian soldiers were designed to be ranged soldiers. Physical movements were emulated with lifelike precision, but the speed and accuracy for sword combat was never something their creators could perfect. There was too much of a delay on the time-sensitive art between the robot's brain impulses and the actual physical movement of their bodies. But this didn't bother Jefferson as he cleaved the head off another rioter. Deus Vult, Jefferson screamed. He's going to get overrun, Kenny cried. No, Reginald screamed. Jefferson is secretly Victor Prime. Retake the Holy Land. Jefferson is absolutely overpowered. Suddenly, a loud horn could be heard in the distance. The sound of the horn was the tune of the famous La Cucaracha song. As the final notes finished, the boys noticed several trees crashing down in the woods surrounding the house in a straight line. As each tree fell, the next tree to fall would be closer and closer to the house. Even the rioters began to stop their assault on the house to turn to look at the disturbance. Deus Vult in chat. A large neon green semi-truck came crashing out from the woods, Tokyo drifting into the crowd and hitting as many people as possible. The rioters ran every which way in fear as blood sprayed everywhere. As one rioter's head was crushed by a wheel of the truck, the blood began to spray, staining the white Templar tunic of Jefferson. In response, Jefferson raised his sword-wielding hand and cheered. Deus Vult, brother. Only once the disturbance was over did the truck come to a stop in the front yard of the house, the lawn completely destroyed. Hesitantly, Reginald, Bobby, and Kenny stepped out of the house and joined up with Jefferson. That was intense, Kenny observed. This truck saved us, Kenny. Thank the Lord. A neon green angel sent from heaven, Jefferson said, gazing at the truck through his helmet. The door to the truck opened and out came a large man with a great beard. He didn't disembark from the truck, but used one of his arms to keep him stable as he stood by the door. As a result, the tall man towered over the boys and the robot. You gentlemen all right? The man asked. Yeah, Kenny said in confusion. Who are you, sir? Bobby asked. The man looked the strange group over. You can call me Twisted, the man replied hesitantly. This here's the Twisted Ambition. He tapped the roof of the truck. And if you guys don't know, Twisted Ambition was a member of the Lazy Koalas that I was a part of. This here is the Twisted Ambition. He tapped the roof of the truck. Me and her were out driving when all this insanity started. I decided I'd help people by running these guys over. The rioters? Reginald asked. The blacks, Twisted replied matter-of-factly. Everyone looked around at the bodies around them. You know what? Most of them actually are African-American, Reginald said to himself. Huh, I never really noticed. You know what? Most of them actually were rioting, Twisted observed. Huh, I never really noticed. He then looked back at Reginald. You can say black. Black isn't a slur, Twisted replied, hopping back into his truck. Probably shouldn't put the word the in front of it, though, Reginald muttered. Twisted looked over at Jefferson. I like your look, man. What's your name? His name is Jefferson, Kenny replied for Jefferson. Oh, like Thomas Jefferson? Twisted asked. Like Jefferson Davis, Kenny replied. Oh, Twisted reacted softly. And for those of you who don't know, Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederate States of America. Listen, we really appreciate the help, and honestly, you seem to have things under control. Do you mind if we, come up there with you? Kenny asked. Twisted looked over at the group. What are y'all's names? Kenny, Bobby, Reginald. Twisted took a moment to think it over, closing his eyes and thinking before finally looking back at the group. You know what? It's the apocalypse. I'm hitting people with my truck, and all I'm missing is a band of guys called Kenny, Bobby, and Reginald, and a knight from the Crusades. It's gonna get crammed up in here, but hop on, boys. We got a mission. Sweet, thank you, sir, Kenny smiled as the group walked over, cramming themselves into the truck. Once they were all situated, Twisted started the engine back up again. So what's the mission? Reginald asked. I got some buddies up north I want to check up on. A lot of the internet is down nationwide, so are the phones. I want to make sure they're alright, Twisted replied. I got a list. First up, we need to check up on a guy named Cody. And if you guys don't know, Cody was a dude in the Lazy Koalas. What's his last name? Bobby asked. He doesn't have a last name, Twisted said. Well, that's ominous. Cody isn't even his first name, Twisted added. It's his middle name? No. Twisted looked over at the boys. He opened his mouth to say something but hesitated as if he was about to unveil some sort of dark evil. He decided against it, closing his mouth and shaking his head. Well then, what? Let's go! Twisted shouted, hitting the gas and plowing through the woods. Everyone screamed. Blood for Christianity. If only Starscream had recruited Jefferson, he could have been the leader of the Legion of Doom. So the truck saved them and didn't isekai them. Jefferson is best boy. Not racism, not again. I just finished U.S. history class. These guys are the Stardust Crusaders. I wonder how one day when the space robot Satan planet approaches to eat the Earth. Right. Believe it or not, that chapter was the most normal chapter. Chapter 440. Part 2. I saw the face of God and it was weeping. Here we go, boys. Forsyth, Georgia, February 17th, 2019. The Twisted Ambition was parked outside a Cracker Barrel. And for those of you, I don't know if Cracker Barrel exists outside the South. It's a restaurant. The Twisted Ambition was parked outside a Cracker Barrel on the side of I-75. Yippied, hoppied, we come take your property. That chapter was the normal one. Twisted Ambition was parked on the outside of a Cracker Barrel on the side of I-75. The interstate had been difficult to drive through as it was jam-packed with abandoned cars like something from The Walking Dead. The drive north was much more difficult than Twisted had anticipated. It was time to stop and eat. The Cracker Barrel had an empty parking lot. The windows were shattered. As Twisted, Kenny, Reginald, Bobby, and the jingling and armored Jefferson approached the door, they realized all the lights were off and that all the knickknacks and merchandise in the store portion of the restaurant were scattered about the store floor. Geez, Bobby reacted at the sight. Some animals really want to see the world burn, Twisted sighed, stroking his beard. A moment of silence for this fallen outpost of freedom. Everyone bowed their heads in respect. Remember that this is about Cracker Barrel. Jefferson took off his helmet, revealing his robotic head as he also looked down, shutting off the lights on his eyes to give the impression of closing his eyes. Twisted eventually looked back up. Would anybody like to say anything about the deceased? Ah! As Twisted turned around to look at his party, he realized that Jefferson was a robot. Oh yeah, Jefferson's a former Bavarian soldier, Kenny started. You're telling me the freaking knight with us the whole time is a robot? Twisted cried. Yeah, Bobby replied nervously. Listen, I know he's a robot. The same sort of robot like that robot army that took over the world a few years ago. But he's a pretty good guy once you get to know him, Kenny pleaded. Okay, Twisted calmed down. I get it. I've never really known a robot before. I shouldn't make judgments on individuals based on the actions of their whole kind. But now, Twisted turned back to the Cracker Barrel. Back to the eulogy. Cracker Barrel used to be a bastion of freedom. Everyone nodded their heads solemnly. And so, Twisted continued his eulogy. I used to say the N-word to my heart's content in there. Every Cracker Barrel is the exact same. It really is. Unicron proceeds to cry in an IHOP after noticing the pancakes are soggy. Unicron saw the face of God in his syrup. Jefferson is Cogman's brother. Outside Atlanta, February 18th, 2019. The last I heard from Cody, he was going on a business trip to Atlanta, Twisted said as the Twisted Ambition rammed through abandoned car after abandoned car on the road into the city. On the horizon, the city seemed dark and charred, smoke billowing from the segments of the city. The boys felt nervous as they approached the city. I use the word city too many times here. I've never been to Atlanta before, Bobby remarked. It looks so terrible right now. Yeah, it used to be something, Twisted sighed, pulling out a photograph from under his coat and then passing it to Bobby. I took this photo of the city the very first time I came here. Bobby looked at the photo. In the photo, the city seemed dark and charred, smoke billowing from segments of the city. It looks exactly the same, Bobby remarked. Twisted checked on the photograph. Oh, sorry, that's a photo from when Sherman burned the city down during the First Civil War. Some context, in the Calamus mythos there was a second Civil War. That's a photo from when Sherman burned the city during the First Civil War, Twisted said, taking the photograph away. In color? Who took that? Why do you have... Here's the photo I was talking about, Twisted said as he passed the photograph to Bobby. It still looked identical. Jefferson is Hush. So he isn't racist to robots, but I'm glad you caught that. I'm glad you caught the joke. How many Transformers are still around at the time when Unicron is making his way to McDonald's on Earth? I think most Transformers are off Earth during this time. I think they're in space fighting Unicron, because Unicron is making his way at this time. Inside Atlanta, the party moved nervously through the streets of Atlanta. Trash and the occasional lingering flame littered about the area. The evacuation and anarchy from the crisis had not been kind to Atlanta. Twisted held his assault rifle at the ready. Reginald held his shotgun. Kenny held a pistol, while Bobby was wielding a baseball bat he found off the ground. Jefferson walked with his gloved hand on the hilt of his sword on his back, still sheathed over his trailing cape. They never knew what sort of threats remained in the chaotic city. "Hey," said a homeless man who suddenly popped out from behind a corner, approaching the party. "Ah!" Reginald screamed, pulling his shotgun's trigger and blasting through the man, who fell with an unceremonious thud. "Dude!" Kenny cried. "Dude, he was just saying hey!" Bobby complained. Sorry, it's just," Reginald started. "Dude, you just straight up shot right through him," Twisted cried. "Oh man, there's no getting up from that. He is gone," Kenny observed. "Dude, Reggie, what the hell?" Bobby looked over at Reginald. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. What if he could have helped us?" Twisted complained. "Dude, like holy crap," Bobby sighed. I'm sorry, I don't know what you want me to... "Well, your sorries aren't getting this guy back up now, are they, Reggie?" Bobby cried. "Yeah, Reggie," Kenny cried. "Reggie? Man, you suck, Reggie," Twisted shook his head. "This is unbelievable, unacceptable," Bobby said. Reginald started. "Guys better watch out. If you startle Reggie, he'll just freaking kill you," Kenny said, pointing at Reginald with his thumb. "Why are you guys being so mean to me right now?" Reginald cried out in confusion. "What, are you gonna cry?" Twisted asked. "Are you gonna cry, Reggie?" Kenny asked. "You know who wished he could still be alive to cry, Reggie?" Bobby asked. "What is going on?" Reginald began to cry. Just piling on this dude. Energon for the Energon bot, sparks for the Spark Throne. I imagine Bobby from King of the Hill and Kenny from South Park chilling with Barack Obama and the Iron Giant if he was a nerd. The real question is if he's racist to ghosts. The homeless man was either Lex Luthor or Starscream. Guess he is one now. They have killed so many people. Right? Exactly. Thank you for catching that. Right. As the party continued on their way, they began to hear what sounded like some sort of chanting. Curious, they continued into the building from where they had heard the chanting crowd, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Entering the stadium, they found that the stadium was filled to the brim with people all wearing dark, hooded robes. They were all saying the same mysterious chant in some sort of dead language. The party noticed that in the middle of the stadium was a large, glowing sphere. The sphere continued to emit strange energies. The glowing sphere had a strange combination of turquoise blue and white designs on it, ever shifting like some artifact from an unknown realm. The sphere was around 12 feet tall and, as a sphere, kept the same diameter throughout the shape. "What the hell is this?" Kenny said, looking at the spectacle around him. "Ah, that's Cody," Twisted replied with a smile. "That's Cody? That's some sort of abstract eldritch creature," Bobby complained. "He's not a creature, he's a concept," Twisted said matter-of-factly to Bobby before shifting his attention. "Hey yo, Cody!" Twisted cried out, cupping his hands around his mouth to amplify his voice. The sphere suddenly rotated towards Twisted, a strange noise similar to a concrete slab being dragged across stone, emanating from the sudden movement. All the cultists suddenly stopped chanting, and all looked at Twisted, and the party as well, the sounds of their cloaks all moving in unison, reverberating off the stadium walls. "It's me, Twisted! I'm so glad to see that you're okay!" The joke is, Cody has never face revealed, and his symbol is just a circle with, like, MS on it, so I decided to interpret that as a strange eldritch creature. "You're okay? Twisted, that is a being from another dimension. I don't think it understands the concept of what a threat is," Kenny whispered. "I see you got a whole cult thing going on," Twisted started. "Death cult," Cody corrected Twisted. As Cody spoke, the listener was made painfully aware of their own mortality on a subconscious level, while also understanding just how relative the concepts of space and time are. "Death cult, nice," Twisted corrected himself. "Anyway, I'm driving around to try to find all of our friends to make sure they're okay during this time. You want to come with?" "Who are these guys?" Cody asked. As he spoke, an arm made of dried blood emerged from the sphere, reaching across the countless meters from his position in the center of the stadium to the group in the stands, extending an elongated finger at the rest of the party before the blood arm retracted back into the sphere. Everyone had a vague recollection that the arm came out, but if they were to be questioned on what they just saw, they wouldn't be able to remember. All grass in the area turned into knives for but a moment while the arm was extended, reverting back to grass as the arm retracted. All sunflowers turned into babies, distraught with their sudden and unnatural sentience and existence, before disappearing altogether. "Ah, these are some guys I picked up. Kenny, Bobby, and Reggie. And this is a Crusader Knight that's actually a robot," Twisted gestured to the party. "It's like a redneck sci-fi D&D party." "Gotcha," Cody replied. "Sure, I'll come with you. I guess our next stop is North Carolina," Twisted started. "The Mexico border," Cody interrupted. His cultists began to slowly leave the stadium in an orderly manner. "The Mexico border? What? Wait," Twisted started. "Wah," and then we get into some unpronounceable numbers here and symbols. Cody let out a strange scream that accidentally reached out and destroyed the reality of Earth 76 in the multiverse before his sphere expanded and continued to expand. The entire party screamed. For but a moment, Jefferson was a man. Bobby was never born. Kenny was a Floridian man with a cap and a mustache who really wanted to get to a boat. That's a reference to the Walking Dead video game. And Twisted was a black man. He looked at his hands and continued to scream, whether it was in horror of the unraveling of the universe by Cody, or by the fact that he had become black, we'll never know. Reginald was a life-sized cardboard cutout of himself. The sphere continued to expand, its energies going wild around it as it absorbed everything inside of it like a clipping animation model. Soon, the party was encompassed by Cody. Let's see what we're talking about here. The sphere is Cody. Is it a racist, Vector Sigma? It says you're a heretic. Okay, I'm not sure if I missed something, but did these people build a coliseum inside a Cracker Barrel? That wouldn't be unusual for this story, but this is an actual coliseum that exists in Atlanta. Blood Arm, no one loves me. Unicron should have a goon just to make dark humor about how everyone is so screwed, like a fabulous Nemesis Prime or a wacky Galvatron with a Red Lantern ring. Cody expands. Krakatron. Wait, Twisted wasn't black earlier? No, he was very white. A few miles south of the US-Mexico border. Now, some reference here. There is a lot of lore behind Mexico in the Calamus mythos. Right now, Mexico is fighting a war of independence from the United States, who had conquered it a few years earlier. The Unido Mexico is the name of the rebellion forces. It's led by Dreadcore, who was another member of the Lazy Koalas. And Dreadcore had been introduced about a year earlier before this story, in his own story. So Dreadcore, in real life, Dreadcore was a member of the Lazy Koalas. In the Calamus mythos, Dreadcore was not a part of the Lazy Koalas because he had his own lore going on. But Cody is not from this universe, so he thinks that Dreadcore was a member of the Lazy Koalas in this universe. So that's why he brought everyone to Mexico. A little confusing, but yeah. I replayed The Walking Dead 2 recently. I actually cried at the video game for the first time because of the ending, right? Mexico is still having a war during the apocalypse. The Unido Mexico forces continued their march. What was once considered to be the border with the United States was in sight. If they captured all territory up into that border, Mexico would be completely under the control of the Mexican pro-independence forces. In a troop transport truck towards the front of the convoy sat the leader of the Unido Mexico forces, the freedom fighter known as the Gast, otherwise known as Dreadcore. And Dreadcore has his own supporting cast characters like Luciano and Daniela that appear in earlier chapters. Alright, that's probably enough, the Gast sighed to Luciano Vengus, who was driving the truck. Let the troops stop here to rest. But sir, the border is right there, Luciano protested. Just because it's in sight doesn't mean it's close, the Gast pointed out, and some of our ground troops have been marching by foot all day. Let them rest. Yes, sir, Luciano replied, stopping the truck and giving orders in Spanish through the radio. Later, Luciano, the Gast, and Daniela Quesada were standing on the outskirts of their camp, looking over the Unido Mexico forces as they went about their day at the camp. You've done good, sir, Luciano smiled at his leader. Tomorrow we'll be free. Tomorrow or the day after, the Gast frowned. You really don't like walking, Luciano sighed. It's annoying, the Gast replied. In games, you usually just select the troops and then right-click where you want them to go. I would have troops walk from one side of a continent to the other without really thinking about how annoying it would be in real life. The Gast looked over at Luciano. But still, we're so close to getting freedom for your people. There isn't really anything in our way right now since most of the US forces are distracted. Suddenly, the sky opened, and down fell the large, 12-foot-tall Cody, along with Twisted, Bobby, Kenny, Reginald, and Jefferson. They crashed unceremoniously into the sand of the desert. Luciano, Daniela, and the Gast watched the incident with looks of disbelief and confusion. They had no idea what they were looking at. Why in the freak are we in Mexico, Cody? Twisted yelled. To check on our friend, Cody replied softly. I'm sorry, unless I've been mistaken this whole time and Radix's name is really Senor El Radixco, I don't think we have a friend in Mexico, Twisted cried in annoyance. This sand isn't going to be good for my parts, complained Jefferson. I don't speak Mexican. I don't even like Mexican food, Bobby started. It's not Mexican, it's Spanish, Reginald corrected. Sorry, I don't even like Spanish food, Bobby corrected himself. Well, at least you tried, Reginald sighed. How am I going to survive in Mexico? Bobby finished. We have a friend in Mexico, Dreadcore, Cody pointed out. Cody, who, and I'm trying to be as polite as I can here, but I'm pretty tired and ticked off. Who the freak is Dreadcore? Twisted yelled in confusion. Cody went silent for a moment, lost in thought, before it hit him. Oh! You've never met Dreadcore in this reality, Cody realized. As someone who existed in multiple realities and timelines at once, it was difficult for Cody to keep things straight sometimes. What are you talking about in this reality? Twisted complained when suddenly the party realized that they were surrounded by Mexican rebels who were all pointing their weapons at them. The party, in front of the party, stepped out Luciano, Daniela, and the Ghast. So, do we shoot them? Daniela asked. Are any Beast Wars characters in the mythos, and is Cody going to expand even more until he becomes a gumball for Unicron to chew? Beast Wars characters do exist. Does everyone know about the death god that's going to eat them? They do not. Cody and Jefferson might save the universe. Radix is in this story? Yes. Radix is in this story. Wait till you see Radix. Wait till you see Radix. It's insane. You knows I just gotta go. Are you still alive at this point? Radix is still alive, yes. Radix is the finale to this. So part 3, chapter 441, Northern Mexico, February 18th, 2019. Hold your fire, the Ghast ordered. Let me speak with them first. Luciano conveyed the order in Spanish to Daniela. Hey there, the Ghast called out to the bearded, twisted Kenny, Bobby, Reginald, and the crusading knight robot Jefferson, as well as to the large eldritch sphere known as Cody. Where is Optimus? At this point, Optimus is coordinating an attack on Unicron in deep space at this point in time. As well as to the large eldritch sphere known as Cody. Hey, you're that terrorist guy, right? Twisted asked, looking at the Ghast's distinct bone armor appearance. The spook. The Ghast. The Ghast corrected. Who are you guys? How did you guys get here? I literally have nothing to work with here because one of you looks like a Templar knight from the Crusades and another one of you looks like a massive ball. I prefer the term nut, Cody replied. No, you don't. Twisted immediately snapped his head to look at Cody. Sphere. You prefer the term sphere when we're talking about you. Oh, Cody realized. Oh yeah, in that case, I prefer the term sphere. I don't know if the sphere or the knight is more confusing, Cody, the Ghast remarked. Deus Vult, Jefferson replied in response. Deus Vult, a few members of the Catholic Crusaders cried out in the distance. There is a faction within the Unido Mexico force called the Catholic Crusaders. The Unido Mexico group was actually a big tent alliance of factions devoted to freeing Mexico from the United States. That a few radical Catholics were part of the alliance was no surprise. Right, the Ghast sighed. Anyway, I think you guys are Americans, and we're in the middle of a war here, and I don't think it's best if you're here right now, so if you can make your way back, you know what? No. I have a bone to pick with you. Pun intended. The Ghast has bone armor, by the way, Twisted said, somehow with parentheses. I've seen you on TV before. I know how you give all those anti-America speeches and have our boys killed. America is literally occupying another country, the Ghast replied. I can hear your accent, you know. I'm not stupid. You're an American yourself, and you're doing all this for the Mexicans? Twisted asked. The Ghast was baffled by the question. I don't think that doing the right thing is hampered by imaginary lines drawn on a map. People fought and died for those imaginary lines, Twisted replied. That line? The Ghast asked, pointing towards the horizon. The border between the U.S. and Mexico before the Second War? You might need to check up on your history, because that line was drawn during the First Mexican-American War, and it wasn't drawn by people trying to do the right thing, I can tell you that much. But that doesn't mean the bloodshed wasn't done by soldiers with families and pure intentions, Twisted replied. So in the middle of this crazy story, we have a allegory, an argument on the morality of war. The same can be said about the Mexican soldiers who fought, died, and lost the war, the Ghast pointed out. At this point, the eyes of the rebels were shifting back and forth from Twisted to the Ghast like a ping-pong ball. Twisted turned around and looked at Kenny. Liberals, am I right? Twisted remarked. Hello, I can hear you, the Ghast cried, waving his arms. Twisted hadn't even whispered his line. Just tell me, what's wrong with helping the Mexican people? Are you that blinded by loyalty to your country? Oh no, Twisted replied, looking over at the Ghast. I'm just racist. 3 seconds of silence passed before Twisted gave a simple smile. 4 more seconds passed before the Ghast looked over at Luciano. You know what, just shoot them, the Ghast sighed. Ready, aim, Luciano ordered in Spanish, and the rebels raised their weapons, aiming at the group. Oh boy, Twisted sighed. Can you teleport us out of here, big boy? Bobby asked, looking up at Cody. I mean, feel free to get us out of here any moment now, Twisted cried. Oh right, I can do that, Cody remembered. After letting out a very feminine exhale, Cody suddenly disappeared. The rest of the group looked astounded. He left us, Kenny remarked. Fire, Luciano ordered. The Mexicans opened fire, bullets piercing through the group who screamed in pain. Suddenly, Cody popped back into the area. Oh crap, sorry guys, Cody quickly said. In the blink of an eye, everyone was back in the stadium in Atlanta. The boys were suddenly all healed of their bullet holes. What happened to the bullets? Why did I get the sensation of being shot apart, but none of the scars or entry wounds to prove it? Twisted yelled. I pretended it didn't happen, Cody replied. You pretended. We didn't get shot. So we didn't get shot? You can rewrite reality like that? Kenny asked. Yeah, Cody replied. Well, Bobby started. Can you make it so that Thanos never got the Infinity Stones? Or that he never existed? Bobby asked. The Endless Crisis is because Thanos has the Infinity Stones, by the way. He gets the stones and then everyone evacuates Earth because they're afraid that Thanos is going to destroy the Earth. Literally who? Cody asked. He didn't keep up with what was going on in the superhero world, despite Thanos being the cause for all the chaos they were currently going through right now. Jesus Christ, Bobby sighed. The conversation was interrupted when the sound of a sudden ignition of a fireball. The party turned their heads and saw that the Ghast, with a magical fireball prepared in his hand, that's something he can do, by the way, and Daniela, with a rifle aimed and ready, and Luciano, with a pistol cocked and ready, aimed at the party. So, you're going to tell me why we're here. Right now, the Ghast ordered. Dreadcore, we just wanted you to come with us. Twisted's trying to check up on everyone in the group since the world's gone crazy, Cody said, and those two were too close to you for me to leave them behind. Twisted? Group, I don't know you people, the Ghast frowned. Should we go back to Mexico? Cody asked. No, dear Lord, no, Twisted yelled. I am not going back to Mexico. Good, because we don't want you there, the Ghast fired back. Listen, Twisted started, calming down. The next person on my list is a guy named Radix. We need to get to North Carolina and fast. I don't think he's going to live if he runs out of Hot Pockets. Twisted looked over at the Ghast. We can find a trailer for the Twisted Ambition out here in Atlanta and carry everyone. After Radix, we have a few more guys left, but after that, I can drive you back to Mexico. Sound good? Just cooperate with me on this. Fine, the Ghast replied, and if I get to go back after all of this, I don't see what's wrong with finding your friends. Are you sure about this? Luciano asked the Ghast. I know I've been learning English lately, but I still have no idea what's going on here, Daniela spoke up in Spanish. No worries, Cody said in perfect Spanish. Making you multilingual only takes but a simple spell. Cody cleared his throat, can we call it that? Before continuing. Oh, the pelican, so smoothly doth he crest, a wind god. Oh my god, I can speak English now, Daniela said in surprise. No, the Ghast cried. Her learning English and gradually getting better at it was one of the few plot threads left from my story arc that was continuing, and something you could tell she was getting better at over time. You can't just hand-wave that. Oh, sorry, Cody replied. Oh my god, this is the first time I've understood you in English. Wait, Daniela started, looking over at the Ghast, then back at Cody. Did you undo the spell? No, she whined. It's all in the name of character development and conveying time progression, Cody replied in Spanish. Here's one phrase I know that works just fine in this situation. Screw you, Daniela said. Oh wow, I understood that one, Twisted remarked. He looked over at Cody. Cody, I think I know Spanish now. You do something where you get unveiled as the narrator and the creator of this whole reality, right? Oh, wait for it. Radix must be the one. Did Radix shank Megatron, or is he also trying to stab Unicron? During this crisis event, is the sky red due to Unicron? No, the sky is normal. It will become red eventually. Cody, the clumsy, almighty, omnipotent godball. Why do people care about Earth so much? They should start the colonies thing like Cybertron and Gundam. So wait, Thanos with the Infinity Stones is just walking around while Unicron is going to eat the Earth like a meatball? Everyone is screwed. That's Endless Crisis for you. Okay, the final chapter, where it gets weird. Chapter 442, Twisted World Part 4, Metafiction. North Carolina, February 19th, 2019. It was... And by the way, when this chapter was written, I had a falling out with the Lazy Koalas, so at this point I'm no longer a member of the Lazy Koalas when I'm writing this. It was dark in the woods of North Carolina, as the Ghast took the lead, trying to move as quietly as possible, despite being encased in bone armor. His hand was ready to conjure up a fireball if needed. To his rear snuck Daniela, Luciano, pistols at the ready. Behind them, Bobby, Reginald, and Kenny and Jefferson continued their sneak, but they were already worse. They continued their sneak, but they were significantly worse. Jefferson, as a rusty old robot inside a suit of armor, was easily the worst at sneaking. And behind them snuck... Hold on, the Ghast whispered, stopping the group with a hand signal. He looked further behind them. Jefferson made up the rear, but nobody was behind him. Where are Twisted and Cody? Cody went to heaven, Bobby said mysteriously. God needs him for the coming war. With that, Bobby went from his sneaking position to standing straight up and turning around abruptly. Twisted is gone. We should be going home. We should be going home, Reginald and Kenny said in unison. Oh, mi Dios, Luciano said in shock as the Georgia boys left without even trying to sneak. Jefferson stood in confusion, shrugged, and followed his friends as they left. These guys literally walk out of the story. Okay, would anyone like to tell me what just happened there? The Ghast said in confusion. What just happened? Why did they go? Where are the other two? Daniela asked in confusion. Nobody knows, Luciano replied to her before shifting his focus back to the Ghast. This Radix guy. Twisted said he lived in this cabin up in the woods, yes? Yes, we're going in armed because we don't know what we'll find once we enter his cabin. He could be just fine. He could have been killed and the cabin belongs to marauders now. Nobody knows. But I want to get back to Mexico as soon as possible. I don't know this Radix guy. We're only doing this so Cody could teleport us back later. The Ghast rambled. Aye, behind you, Luciano said in shock. The Ghast turned around and found a small cabin right in front of him. It wasn't there before, and the Ghast hadn't moved an inch. God, why do I always end up in these weird abstract situations? The Ghast sighed. It's as if you are some sort of strange meta-character that does not belong in this world, Luciano replied. What? The Ghast asked, looking over at him. What? I didn't say anything, Luciano said with genuine confusion in his eyes. Oh, the Ghast sighed. I see where this is going. With that, the Ghast walked up to the door and knocked on it 3 times. He could hear some rummaging inside the cabin before it opened, and there stood a young man with dark hair and glasses. You weren't supposed to find me. I was never supposed to be here, the young man spoke quickly. Are you Radix? We've been looking for you. By we, I mean Cody and... The Ghast started. They aren't here anymore. Maybe they never were. I haven't decided yet, the man replied. Come in, come in. With that, he entered the cabin, gesturing for the 3 to enter. The Ghast looked nervously at Daniela and Luciano. This is insane, the Ghast observed. We're not really going in there, are we? Daniela protested. Somehow, I feel like we don't really have a choice, Luciano sighed. The 3 cautiously entered the cabin. I call it the commander's cabin. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? I always loved the alliteration, the man said. And yes, you may call me Radix. The Ghast and his party looked around at the wooden cabin, illuminated by a fireplace that made the light dance on the walls. Photographs that the Ghast could not see clearly covered the walls. On the left-hand side was a bed. On the right hand was a small table and a chair. All sorts of papers were thrown about. A cooking spit was over the fireplace. Well, my name is Dreadcore, Radix interrupted. I know you. And I know of you. And that's Luciano Vengus and Daniela Quesada, Radix said casually. How do you know our names? The Ghast asked in confusion. How? Radix said with a smile as he sat down. Why, I created you, of course. Just as I created me. I shouldn't have. I should not have created myself. But stories tend to get out of hand. What are you talking about? Ghast asked. Have you heard of fragments, Dreadcore? The power gods have to create a piece of their very essence and provide it with its own sentience? Radix asked. I suppose so. I guess I was a fragment, and a larger part of a fragment of the larger god of Dreadcore, and that's from a previous story. Yes, and you merged with your god. Typically, when a god merges with its fragment, the god's personality overwrites the fragments. You did the reverse. I'd say it was amazing if it wasn't something I planned. Jesus Christ was a fragment, you know, a fragment of God in this world. Radix continued. You've lost me, Ghast frowned. And I am a fragment of a wider being, of a wider being, larger than even God. Or the god of this world, Radix continued. I'm less of a fragment in the traditional sense, though. I'm a puppet. Radix smiled, mimicking the stiff arm movements of a puppet. A text puppet. To your eyes, in your dimension, a flesh puppet, but to the reader's eyes, a text puppet. Every word and every action is determined by he who controls me. The true Radix. Not that I'm the false Radix. We're one and the same, really. I am a finger of a wider hand. Listen, stop. Just stop. I don't know how to respond to this. Wouldn't it be crazy if I started talking sideways? I don't know if you guys can see it because of my camera, but I suddenly start talking sideways. Radix asked. Oh wow, that felt so unnatural, and I don't know how to describe how, the Ghast yelped in surprise, unable to explain what just happened. Look, I'm talking in the Cambria font now, instead of Times New Roman. Can you really tell the difference? Radix asked. Are you the devil? The Ghast whimpered. No, I'm the spirit of the Calamus mythos, of the cuckoo universe. I'm the architect and the one who put words to the page. I was never supposed to reveal myself. This isn't a world I belong in. This wasn't a world Twisted nor Cody belonged in. But I'm in it, the Ghast explained. And I don't know why. But let's see where it all goes, shall we? Radix smiled. Except I know exactly where your story is going. I have it written down in an outline. I even know the exact words you're going to say that will be the last to show up on the page. Is it a good ending? A bad ending? If you're savvy, you probably already know. The Ghast was whimpering in confusion at this point. Where do I fall in the lore of this universe's cosmology? Where do I stand next to God or the Endless? That's the thing, I don't. I exist outside the rules of continuity and lore. That's not the same thing as existing outside the rules of reality. Plenty of things do that. God, the Endless, the Infinity Stones, what have you. I exist outside of any and all continuity. I am the typos. I am the small continuity errors. I am the force that drives time and the selector of what tools I want to build this. You better start believing in hybrid fictions, Dreadcore. You're in one, Radix said. Dreadcore screamed. I was never supposed to appear, but you forced my hand. I forced my hand because I am you. I've always been you, and I am everyone and everything and every time and everywhere. North Carolina. The Ghast, Luciano, and Daniela found themselves in the middle of a field somewhere in North Carolina. It was mid-afternoon. "Sir, where are we? The last thing I remember is us preparing to rest not far from the original border, and now we're here," Luciano asked. "You don't remember anything?" the Ghast asked. Luciano looked confused. The Ghast quickly turned to Daniela, who also seemed confused but with a stable mentality. "Why? Why did you curse me to be the only one to remember whatever the hell that was?" the Ghast muttered. Nevertheless, he turned around to face the horizon. "Well, let's just get the show on the road. Figure out where we are and where we should go." "Yes, sir," Luciano replied, and so the group set out. The Ghast decided that some things should be left forgotten. And that is the Calamus mythos, Twisted World. It can always get weirder, Colby Ono says. Can it always get weirder, guys? If only you knew how weird it got. Because evil, just look at most of Decepticon's eyes, red as Decepticon hair. So did you kill off the koalas in this story then? No. They just leave the story. They walk out of the story. Is this inspired by Doom Patrol? I've never read Doom Patrol. Oh, por Dios is more used than oh mi Dios, I see. Why does Cody like a Mexico? Is this Radix or Stan Lee? So he's a devil man, but he merged with God instead. Unicron eats Thanos and the stones. Radix is a Radix of a Radix, the infinite Radix. Jack Kirby would love this inception. The king of castle parallel to the hill on which the god stands. Ah, what? Well, that last part was intense. Right. The last part was intense. Well, the level of metafiction remind me of HLV Rai, Chvil Rai. There you go. That's the type of thing my mind thinks of when I'm left to write outline stories for too long, and I'm finally allowed to let loose. When I'm finally allowed to go crazy. I mean, what? I just love that. This isn't a world I belong in. It isn't a world Twisted or Cody belonged in. But I'm in it, and I don't know why. But let's see where it all goes, shall we? Radix smiled. Except I know exactly where your story is going. I have it written down in an outline. I even know the exact words you're going to say that will be the last to show up on the page. Is it a good ending? A bad ending? If you're savvy, you probably already know. The Ghast was whimpering in confusion at this point. Where do I fall in the lore of this universe's cosmology? Where do I stand next to God or the Endless? That's the thing I don't. I exist outside the rules of continuity and lore. That's not the same thing as existing outside the rules of reality. Plenty of things do that. God, the Endless, the Infinity Stones, what have you. I exist outside of any and all continuity. I love that. I love this line. I am the typos. I am the small continuity errors. I am the force that drives time and the selector of what tools I want to build this. You better start believing in hybrid fictions, Dreadcore. You're in one. I was never supposed to appear, but you forced my hand. I forced my hand because I'm you. I've always been you, and I am everyone and everything and every time and everywhere. And then suddenly, everyone's in a peaceful field. Missing the word "the" can really destroy a sentence. I am the typos. I don't think you can get more meta than that. I change the font I'm speaking. I suddenly talk in a vertical line. Radix is more overpowered than Xeno-sama from Dragon Ball and Shaggy. America is steadily falling. Steadily falling. So what was the point of the night robot? I just wanted to write a night robot. It was an idea that it was a thing stuck in my head for a long time that I always wanted to do. So I did it. Oh boy. What was the point of the night robot? I wanted to... Okay, so there's a long portion of the Calamus mythos that's just a huge war with robots, and all these robots have their own personalities, and this war is across the planet, and it gets fought for years. And like, I've always thought of, like, I always focus on the main character, which is like the emperor of the empire that owns the robots, who built the robots. But I'm thinking, like, I have an infinity amount of stories I could tell with these robots, from focusing on a platoon during the wars, focusing on like a leftover robot body that gets reactivated by some civilians after the war, and what does that robot do? You know, I have a whole lot of ideas with those robots. So that was one of the ideas that I wanted to play with. A robot that gets suddenly reactivated after the wars by some rednecks in the woods and becomes a Templar Knight. So what do you think of Beast Wars Inferno? I think he's Beast Wars Inferno. I always thought of what it would be like if the creator was in their own story and how they would talk about the awareness of it. But that really takes the cake of insanity. I also want to add that at this point, I had been sitting at my desk at work for like 7 hours doing nothing, and I was bored out of my mind. They gave Beast Wars Megatron a real name in the IDW Beast Wars series. They also gave him a real name in Beast Wars Uprising. I think it's like Gnash Tooth or something in Beast Wars Uprising. It starts with a G. Alright, I am hungry. I am starving. I want food. Jack Kirby is my favorite self-insert. So I think I'm going to start making lunch around now. The stream was fun, boys. Gash Teeth. It's Galavar in IDW. Have you read Invincible? I've never read Invincible. I've never watched it, no. But thank you guys all for coming out. We're going to end the stream around here. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming out. It's really fun. I had fun. I hope you had fun. I am tired. How long have I been streaming? Around 2 hours. Wow. Lunchtime, boys. It is lunchtime, boys. I never know how to end streams. Thank you for coming up. I don't know when the next stream's going to be. I don't know when the next video is going to be. I don't know. I just got rejected from my apartment. So, I will be homeless in a few days. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on. You know, becoming homeless. But yeah. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Peace. Best Cape Crap of the 2010s. Alright. Okay, peace.